I have some of these shirts that are before. Probably ought to go that way.
So yeah, so that's what say, that's I couldn't figure out why he didn't have the straight option, and I realized that.
On the wedge?
I did.
The best of all possible worlds is to probably think it will. But I don't think it matters. Morning. How are you, gentlemen?
Related to this.
Boy, the minutes from last session,
That Daniel Thomas is
small, huh?
I forgot we only had two.
Yeah, when Levers is in here, we can get out of these meetings pretty quick. Actually, that's.
Much longer.
I really don't, was that title?
Yeah.
Four or five staff.
He wasn't here.
But I didn't notice that real well.
That's okay.
Before.
No, don't worry, sir. Cool. So I got that, so I'll be able to pull that.
Sure, that's fine.
Louis, whenever you're ready, I'm gonna go ahead and start the meeting. We got 7 of us here. Ted, good morning. Take your time. I'm not rushing. I heard thunder this morning.
Yeah.
Well, I heard it just at 7 o'clock.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
There was a light that struck in my neighbor. Okay.
Wow.
Everything's with white in our house for a second.
Okay, everybody ready to go? Whoops.
Get back, I had to work.
You want to put our agenda up there?
I can take a look at here. Let me see. Let me look at this.
I'm going to call the meeting to order. The first order of business is to announce the next hearing, which is next March 22nd, upcoming March 22nd at 8:30. Who's here from the City of Columbus staff? Louis, anyone else? You raise your right hand. Do you swear? I'm going to accept the left hand today.
I got it. I'm better.
Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
So say I do.
I did.
Thank you very much. Next, would you do the roll call for us, please?
Yes. 1 second here.
Take your time.
One of the list. So Bob Loversage,
Here?
Steve Whitman,
Here.
Dan Maniaci,
Here.
Tony Slanik,
Here.
Mike Lusk,
Here.
Jennifer Riddler,
Here.
Chad Hardesty, here. Judy Bartley, not present, and Otto Beatty the third is not present.
Okay, I declare quorum, so meeting is in order. Would you review the hearing format for us, please, Louis?
Yes, the meeting format will be that city staff will present the application materials, applicant will be sworn in and asked to present any additional materials. Registered speakers will be sworn in and provided 3 minutes to speak each, and commissioners will discuss the case and ask questions if needed.
Very good. Okay. With that, why don't we go ahead? I guess we're ready to go to the first case, please.
Just for Bob, 1 second.
Give this-
So,
I've got mine up.
case number 1 is 303 East Town Street. They are looking for modifications consisting of a garage enclosure, entryway modifications, and a new awning. This is the location at 303 East Town Street. It is west of Topiary Park and between Grant Avenue and South 6th Street. It is site visit of the locations. Quickly first. So the applicant is proposing various modifications to an existing structure. The ground floor garage at the rear will be enclosed to create additional interior office space. A new entryway and awning will be added to the East Town Street facade, and new graphics will go on the building. Materials will match the existing materials. So the location.
Oh, I'll go back again. Can we interrupt for 1 minute? We failed to approve the minutes from the last meeting, which I forgot about. So we're gonna pick this right up here. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
Motion to approve.
Okay, is there a second, please? Thank you. So it's on the table. Any questions, comments, additions, deletions? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye, please.
Aye.
Those opposed? That the minutes are approved. I'm sorry.
No, no,
Back to
thank
case
you.
number one.
Excellent. Thanks for
Thank
finding
you,
it.
Jane.
So here's the location. Here's the Ohio Health building in question. This is the north elevation of the building. Here you can see the drive-in lane right there. This is the side of the building. So here they're planning on moving the store and creating an awning on the front of the building. Here's the side of the building. This is the west elevation right here. West side of the building. This is where the garage will be enclosed to the rear of the building. Here you can see that parking garage that will become interior space. This is the view to the south, an additional parking lot, and then a larger building. Here you can see the same building looking southwest. See that this is where the doorway will be modified and the entry awning will be placed. And this is what you see. This just to give some context. This is to the northwest. This is to the northeast. This is to the west. So regarding this proposal, the guidelines state that downtown's built environment will continue to be enhanced and energized with new buildings and additions to existing structure that promote good design, long-lasting building construction materials, and attention to detail, especially at the street level. Temporary design and materials are appropriate, but should be compatible with the scale and proportion of the building, as well as its placement in rich streetscape. So in summary, the proposal generally meets the guidelines with regards to openings, materials, and graphics. And I have the packet from the applicant, and I believe the applicant is present.
Okay, who's here for the applicant, please? Would you come up to you're welcome to take your mask off if you, I think this constitutes, safe distancing, so.
Good morning, Todd Sloan from the Damo Group. It's good to see everybody again. I was sitting there in my chair thinking about the very first project that I came and saw you guys at was at Grant, and it was 21 years ago. So we've been doing a lot down there. So
we had just graduated from high school.
exactly. I was on a summer intern program. So this project is just an expansion of the cancer program at the Grant campus, which is desperately needed in downtown hospital. Grant's the only downtown hospital that remains. They have continuing expanded demands for services there. And so this will provide a state-of-the-art medical oncology or infusion and radiation oncology. The location in the back was a parking spaces that they use for physicians. It had about 16 spaces in it. We're enclosing that and building the linear accelerators and the radiation oncology clinic inside that space that's being enclosed. And then the fourth floor of the building, we built the building oversized when we finished it in 2017 for expansion. And that space is just a tenant finish job, basically, to put in medical oncology. So that'll be an infusion clinic with 22 chairs in it, which I think you can see from some of the drawings. So architecturally, when we looked at this, it was really pretty simple because we were just enclosing a small area in the back. We used the exact same materials that were on each one of the faces. And since this is kind of the back corner of the building, there's not a lot of visibility to it from the street. But we just wanted to make sure that it was consistent with the other designs that were completed earlier and you guys approved. This building, I think we came through here in 2016.
These really are a bunch of very minor changes here.
Yep.
Am I to understand you're using the existing materials on the new?
Correct. So the brick, metal, and glass will all be the same as the existing facility.
Does anybody have any questions on this?
I just had two
Yes, go ahead.
questions.
I'm sorry, could you please turn on your microphone?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. You do it? Okay, there we go. One question, it looks like on the existing, the existing part, there are different types of glazing. It looks like there's some green and maybe darker glazing, maybe spandrel. So on that first level where you're putting in the new storefront, are you using a variety of that or just one?
It's just one color. So basically as you mentioned, that spandrel that's above, that gives that little bit of darker tint to that. So everything that we're doing is in the clear story component. So it'll all be the lighter color, greenish color glass. That's kind of the standard that we use on all the grant projects down there. And same thing for the metal canopy that's across the front. Louis did a great job of showing the buildings on the other side of the street. They've got some of that curved canopy kind of feel to them. And so it's going to use the same materials and the same thing. The only thing that's different is because this is an existing building, we're having to support that canopy from above. So you'll see some cables that run up above that go to stanchions that are mounted on the outside of the brick.
And the second question I had was the canopy. So the building that's to the east also has a canopy. It's, like a curved structure.
Yep.
Vertical, and it looks like it's translucent or transparent.
Yep.
And the top of the canopy, the dark black top, is that opaque or is that?
It is opaque. And so we thought a lot about what the canopy should be. The building that it is connected to is the Bone and Joint Center at 323 East Town. And so that's the orthopedic center that they have there where they do orthopedic outpatient surgery. And it has that unique to the Grant Campus glass canopy that we actually came to you guys and expanded when we did the renovations inside of that building. All the other buildings have this curved metal kind of component to them. And we looked at options of glass canopies that were adjacent. It just looked like they were competing with each other. And we were concerned that we would confuse patients about where to go. And so that was a reason that we thought we should differentiate the two. And you'll see some of the signage that was put on
I
it.
like the canopy very much. I was just thinking because from the windows above, looking down,
Yep,
if, maybe just think about what that canopy looks like from the top. But I think the shape and how it works with the building is very successful.
yep. Thanks.
Okay, good. Any other questions or comments on this one? Everybody got the drill? What's the pleasure of the group, please? Is there a motion of some form?
I'll move for approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, the motion is on the floor. Any other questions or comments?
Great.
Thanks.
Anything from the audience? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thanks very much.
Thanks, you guys. Have a great week, okay?
Case, the next case is 150 East Gay Street, addition of a rural rooftop deck and pool. Do we have is there an applicant here for this case?
Which,
What do we want to do? The applicant has.
we'll put it to the end. I think if there's nobody here, we just don't have to act.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Okay, next case then?
Yep, Gay and High, installation of a public art piece at the intersection of Gay and High.
Okay.
They are seeking approval of the Janet Eckelman design art sculpture to be suspended above the intersection of Gay and High Street. Will consist of a structural net supporting free-flowing sculptural fiber. Pieces will be anchored to the 4 buildings at the corner of the intersection. One of the buildings is individually listed on the Columbus Register of Historic Properties, which is 51 North High. The proposal appeared conceptually at the December 2021 meeting. Feedback was as follows. Whitman asked how it would be attached to the buildings. Luss asked them to return with material samples, but said it was cool and unique. Loverton said he liked it, and Barbie said it brought vibrancy.
Write that down. I don't say that very often.
So the analysis, the guidelines state that public art is a critical component of the built environment and adds much to the city's quality of life. Design of art public spaces should be influenced by physical context in terms of composition, scale, mass, and materials. Its integration into larger development projects is encouraged. Works of art should also be designed and installed so as to not to damage or visually obscure contributing buildings or building elements, and should be designed with consideration to maintenance and durability. So in summary, the proposal generally meets the guidelines. The applicant has worked to modify their proposal with planning and historic preservation to minimize the impact of the lighting and anchor attachments to the building. They are seeking a recommendation of approval from the Downtown Commission regarding the artwork and a COA for the artwork's attachment to the buildings at the intersection. And I do have site visits here. You want to see some pictures?
Why don't you run through this quickly then,
Yeah.
Louis?
So here's
You've
the,
obviously seen it before,
yeah,
but
here's the historic building on the south,
thank you.
all the different views, different buildings that will be affected. This building will be anchored to this building, and the historic listed property. And did you already go through HRC?
I did, yes, last week when they approved it.
They approved it. So they-
Okay, very good. Would you, Don, identify yourself for the record?
Don DeVere, I'm representing the ownership group at Gay and High.
Okay. And would you raise your right hand? Do you swear in affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So say I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Yep.
Let's just step back for a second. Are there any changes from what we have seen already, what you
No.
brought in before? Nothing whatsoever.
Nope, just a
Okay.
little more detail.
Just kind of, clarification.
Yep.
Thanks.
And
What are
really
the, tell us what these cables are. There's some different ones.
Yeah, Mr. Lust, let's see, samples of the material. The largest piece is the highest structural net material. The second largest piece is a intermediate material that's also part of the structural net. And then the colored fibers are the sculptural net, which hangs from the structural net, which is suspended from buildings. So it'll be kind of the free-flowing piece. And those are the colors that represent the
Oh,
sculpture.
okay. Okay. I guess we have seen this. What's everybody want to do? Do we want them to walk through it again? Are you satisfied with it? Do you have questions?
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead,
A
Bob.
long-term question. So this is fabric, this piece is dirty already, it's going to require maintenance. You went through that last time, so I get that. What provisions are being made for X years in the future when the ownership group no longer wants to put this up every year and take it down every year and affected all of those things that are covered, in what you've given them? What happens when they don't want to do that anymore? Is there any provision for reversion of the anchorage and the lighting and restoring the poles, taking it all apart? I know you're not looking to that, but long term, this is probably not going to be here in 100 years.
Yeah, good question. So one thing we've spent time on the last 2 months is working with the lighting designer to locate all the light fixtures at mortar joints. So if we were to run through all.
I'm sorry, at what?
Mortar joints.
At mortar joints, okay.
Yeah. So there is no penetration in any historic material, exterior cladding material at all. The structural connection points are all at roof level. They consist primarily of structural steel additions.
Meaning that they're over the top of the parapet, is that the idea?
Only in one case. In 3 of the buildings, the structure remains behind the parapet. So they're not visible from the street at all.
So they won't really even be on the parapet then, they'll be.
Correct. They're not on the parapet.
And holding it up, really?
Nothing's on the parapets. The parapets aren't strong enough.
Right, I would think.
Yeah, so Bob, to answer your question, in the case of the light fixtures, easily repairable because we're using mortar joints. In the case of the structural attachment points at the roof, the steel additions could be removed by a crane at a future date. The only thing they're really doing is penetrating roof membranes and getting down into structural members of the.
Which is on the roof, but we don't care about that. How big wide are the mortar joints? I mean, what kind of an attachment can you put in a half-inch wide mortar joint?
Yeah.
I mean, to be realistic about it. I understand we don't want to, but the reality of it is you're going to go into the face material. I'm okay with that, but I just,
Well, we're gonna try to avoid that wherever we can, especially on the Citizens Building, which is shown here. It's hard to tell from this slide how big those mortar joints are, probably somewhere between half an inch and 3/4 inch.
right,
The good news is that the light fixtures that are being affixed to the building are very compact and small. They're only about 9-inch fixture and fairly lightweight. So
Okay.
they don't really require a real robust attachment system.
Okay.
So we're pretty confident that we can use the mortar joints together. I'm sure there'll be some expansion type materials used in the mortar joints to get a good fit. But that's the plan at this point.
okay.
But on the J boxes on the surface, it's not recessed, so it's not a big hole.
Correct.
No,
Yep.
It's all good.
But it's well thought through.
I had a question about what you were talking about, the structural attachment. So, I understand that they're on the top. I think you said one of them is behind, or 3 of them are behind the parapet. And I'm wondering too, because it looks like you also have an attachment to the face of the buildings lower down. Is that not as large, is that not as crucial an attachment? Is that one of the smaller ropes for that?
Yes, it is. Yes, there are 2 low attachment points. That's a good point. And they have fairly small incisions into the face of the building. And they are not they don't exert as much force as the high attachment points. So I believe they use a smaller rope and the incision is fairly small incision, only about 9 inches.
And that's also going into a mortar joint with the masonry building?
It's not. That is, one of them is on the Nicholas Building, which is the new building. And it will actually have to penetrate one of the man-made masonry panels. We can see in that stair tower right there, you can see those high light fixtures just below that cornice piece will be one of the low attachment points. So the little masonry panel that will have to penetrate can be replaced if we were to remove the sculpture. Probably have some attic stock. If not, that's a readily available material. It's a man-made material. The other low attachment point is on the old modern finance building at the southeast corner, right there. And it's right behind that light pole, just to the right of those light fixtures. And so it would have to penetrate that marble panel. We believe we have a replacement marble panel, believe it or not, in the basement. So if we need to replace the panel at a future date, we could do so. So those are the 2 low attachments.
And I just had one more question. For the small luminaires you're using, it looks like from the cut sheet, they come in different colors. So are you using for all of the buildings the same color? Or are you, let's say, thinking about trying to match to the building to, so that if the building is somewhat gray, then you're using a gray for that building?
You mean the color of the fixture itself,
Yeah.
not the light?
Not the lighting that's shining, but the actual, luminaire fixture.
Yeah, all the light fixtures themselves will match the exterior material that they are adjacent to. And if there's quite a wide range of stock colors, but if we can't find a stock color that matches, we'll get a custom color.
Okay.
Custom coded.
Great.
Okay, other questions? We have seen this. Any other questions for the applicant? Comments?
Right?
Don't know. I'd love to get it up yet this year. Remember, this is a seasonal installation, so it has to come down November 1st and it goes back up April 1st. If we can get it up.
What do you mean it has to?
Well,
That's a self-imposed rule, obviously.
it is self-imposed, but it's.
That's your intent?
It's subject to, the problem is ice.
I see.
Freezing rain.
Gotcha.
So through an analysis of weather patterns, we've determined that that's the period of
Gotcha.
time that
Okay.
needs to come down.
Okay, so it's roughly April to something like April.
And I think that's through with public service. Is there a maintenance agreement in place or something like that? If it's, sure, it won't be an issue. If it's December 1st and it's not down, are there mechanisms in place where?
They'll probably go up there and cut it down.
That's what I was.
It would be an expensive undertaking.
Okay, no,
There's going to be quite an incentive to get it down, I think.
Right.
Yes, I'm sure there is not a maintenance agreement at this time, but I'm sure there will be easements in place.
Yeah.
Okay, so any other questions, comments? What's the pleasure of the group, please?
I move that we approve the COA for the anchors and recommend to whoever we're supposed to recommend and just going forward.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
So there's a motion on the floor. You did mention HRC, so that, what do they do? They just, do they talk about attachments? They say, oh gosh, you're putting art in front of our old building? What's that discussion about, just for fun?
Well, unbeknownst to me, until about 6 weeks ago, I discovered that the Citizens Building is actually individually listed on the Columbus Register.
Okay,
For that reason, the HRC needed to weigh in on specifically the attachment points to that.
Okay.
agreement, which they did
okay.
last week.
So you're on the whole should match, you're all in good shape with them, right? They're happy.
HRC is good, yep.
Good.
What about the Arts Commission? Are they involved?
Yep, next week, next Thursday.
That's
No, this week.
recommendation.
So what does that mean? If we say yes and they say no, then,
The Art Commission,
yeah.
of the three bodies, they are without a doubt the most enthusiastic.
Well,
From a technical, we're recommending.
Yeah, so our COA is for the attachment.
Yeah.
And our recommendation is to the art commission that we recommend approval.
Is that right? Is that
That's
what
right,
we're
that's
doing?
what
So
we're
we're not really approving this. What is this, artwork? Is this-
Hey.
Okay,
So that's what I meant in my motion.
okay, very good. So what we're doing is we're recommending approval to the Arts Commission.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so we got a motion on the floor. Any other questions, comments?
Quick question.
Okay,
The cables, and I'm sure it is, but it's treated, it's waterproof, is that correct?
Yeah, it's very high, I can't even explain what it is. It's a very high, space age, high-tech material. I think it's probably stronger than steel cable. Keep in mind, these installations have been made all over the world for the last 16 years and have fared very well. So from a comfort level standpoint, that's the best kind of fact we have to work with. They've proved the test of time.
Okay,
where does it get stored?
It gets stored in a crate, actually. The whole thing collapses. I don't know how big the crate would be, but not very big. It ships in a crate and it collapses into a very condensed space. And it gets stored in the basement of one of the buildings.
And there is a specific set of drawings for how you install it then. Right?
Yes.
So you can't get it backwards or upside
Yeah.
down. or-
There's
Big dog crawling across it to make some adjustment.
Okay, I'm going to call for a question. Any other comments or questions from the audience? Anybody? All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? Okay. We've got our approval. Thank you.
Thank you all very
Recommendation.
much. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Let's go on to the next case. then.
116, 124 East Long Street. Pull that up on the map. So it's right here. This two-story commercial structure, long, north of Long, between 4th and 3rd Street. And with the applicant, they're proposing exterior modifications to this building, which was constructed in 1900. The south elevation will have a new first-floor storefront system, awning, and second-floor windows. The east elevation will have several original openings and a fire escape replaced by a new 17-foot wide by 24-foot high storefront opening with awning. The applicant will return at a later date with graphics.
Well, we're not.
The
There's not.
guidelines state that building owners are encouraged to conserve and rehabilitate contributing buildings, but additions should be complementary and not detract from the building's essential character. Temporary design and materials are appropriate, but should be compatible with the scale and proportion of the building. So in summary, the proposal generally meets the guidelines. However, the new eastern storefront does result in the removal of several original windows and doors. Let me pull up the site visit I took of the building. So here is the facade on the south. This storefront will be replaced according to the drawings. These windows will be replaced. A new awning will be added. Here is the east elevation. This is where they are proposing removing the fire escape. These windows and door as well will be removed, and a new opening will be created. Here is the west side of the building. No change proposed there. And here you can just get a closer view of that storefront. It has stucco placed on it. And here you see as well not that storefront, it's stucco. And here's a close-up of the windows that are on the building. And this is where the opening will go on the side of the building. Just to give some context, this is the south. This is directly to the west, the budget building, the new construction. And this is what is to the east, this building which was recently renovated. And with that, the applicant is here.
Okay. Morning, would you identify yourself for the record, please?
Yes, John Ingwerson.
Okay, John, you're welcome to take your mask off if you, just so we can hear things
Sure.
well. Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, say I do.
Do.
Thank you. Go ahead. Do you have anything you want to say? I mean, we've seen the
Sure.
pictures here. Go ahead. Thanks.
So could you go to that axon in the package?
Sure.
Right. Yeah. So this building is a little bit tired and the owners would like to have that second floor be Class A office space. They have a few clients. They've been in the downtown office business for quite a while, Schottenstein property. And so they've identified a tenant that wants Class A, a law firm that wants space on the second floor. And the building currently has a walk-up on that front facade, with a small man door. The idea is to make it handicap accessible, get an elevator in there if you want to go back to the plan there. So the idea is to punch in a moment frame and create the structure to support that elevator and then wind a metal stair around it, sort of corkscrew up so that has more corporate presence. And then it is in such a narrow alley that Louis, could you go to the slides that I done, and you can go through.
Oh, the slides?
Yeah. So the idea is that becomes the second floor elevator lobby and main entrance. Parking is going to be typically to the north, and they will walk down Lozelle. And we've got a couple of shots that sort of show that progression. And the fact that this is in a canyon and not visible, the idea then is with that element of the moment frame in that building there and a punched in entry and the glass canopy, that when you would look at it, you would see that there's something going on there that's more modern and cool.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble finding it. I have my street views, if that's okay.
What were you going to try to get us to look at, John? The east side of the building or the north side? Or the site plan? What were you trying to get us to look at? The site plan or?
No, just here, these shots. So if you look at this is from Lafayette, and this is where parking happens, and pedestrian traffic for workers would be going in from there, and then you can see the newer apartment building, and that's about all you see from that intersection. Can you, next slide, Louis?
Your building being down on the right.
On the far
Past
right,
the- yeah.
after the dumpster and the
Yeah.
cars. So keep going. And then that's what you see from the furthest away in the parking lot for pins. And right behind the dumpster is the service door and the fire escape and the openings that we would be punching in, and it would be rectangular and go to the header of the existing second floor windows, so that you would get a rectangular element that would match up with the same elements that are on the Barnes apartment block. Those buildings, but, so next one, please. A little bit closer, and then I think there's one more, but I'm not sure. Oh, and then that's from behind the dumpster looking across. So this opening faces that Pins building across the street. And, you know, we've got 40 feet of viewing distance of that facade. So the idea there is how do you make an alley entrance Class A corporate elevator lobby, and that was our response to that. And we realized we're getting rid of the fire escape, and we're creating, you know, its own little condition there for the main entrance for the second floor.
Okay.
The first floor on the Long Street side, you know, with the indentations, et cetera, that just needs to freshen up and become more leasable space. And we felt like that could handle.
So if we look at this, are you the stucco band along there? There we
Goes
go.
away.
Along that goes away.
Yeah,
What's behind that now? Is there a structure in there or is it glass? Did
No,
it cover
the
over original?
ceilings are
storefront?
14 feet on the first floor,
And
and they've had a drop ceiling down to, you know, 11 feet for ever and ever.
Probably glass.
But it would.
I was gonna, that's what I'm trying to get to. Is there glass behind that originally, behind the stucco band there? Or do you know?
No.
Okay, but it's masonry there, so you're leaving the
No,
existing
no,
masonry open?
It's wood framed and. it's-
No, I understand, but what I'm saying,
Behind the stucco is wood frame.
Yeah.
And plaster and lap.
right, so, but you're not changing any of the masonry opening along the front?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to get. What are the columns in between there, the three in the middle? Do those remain the same?
Where are we looking? Oh,
That one right there? Yep.
those are the shear walls that come into the facade.
But it's not masonry then, under there?
Yes.
Existing, in other words.
It
condition.
is, there is masonry under there.
Okay, and you're going to cover it with, looks like with metal, is that right? Metal siding?
Yes.
I had a question about the top, when you were talking about the stucco piece that runs horizontally. So it looks like, I don't have the drawing in front of me, but it looked like the stucco went up to the underside of that accent, little small accent strip, a little bit on top. And
Right.
I'm wondering, will the mason, oh no, I guess not. So the masonry, the new storefront is gonna go right to the underside of the existing
Correct, because there
masonry.
is a
You won't
beam,
have to fill in anything.
there's a beam there.
Okay,
So it'll go to the bottom of the beam.
okay.
So are there metal posts then underneath where the three columns in the middle then?
There's metal posts.
So you're not taking out a masonry? I mean,
No.
for example, the column on the left-hand side of the building is masonry. That's not what you have in the three in the middle, though, right? You have these heavy steel, I assume, posts, it look like. Is that right?
Correct.
That's what you're covering. That's what you're covering with the metal panel.
Correct.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to get. Thank you. And will all the windows be the same? I mean, they'll be black. Is that the idea?
Yes.
Why are you replacing the original window?
The second floor windows, they're single pane, true divided light.
Right, they're wonderful. Why do you want to replace them with crown?
We're gonna try and match we'll have a simulated divided light, insulated glass with an operable bottom with a single hung.
Well, we're not a preservation commission, so I guess make too much. But
I mean, the look would be exactly the same.
Exactly.
I don't think to the untrained, to an untrained eye, they're gonna look. You're not.
Do you have the window samples or specs on those? What you're planning on doing?
No, but we've got a glass guy that's working on that. We needed to get further down the road to find out whether the major moves on this thing were acceptable.
No, it's not, but we could always have them come back with window details.
I think with the window, because these originals are real divided lights, I think with the simulated divided light, it would be good that there's some depth to the profile. You know, of course, it doesn't have, it's
Sure,
just a piece of
we could
glass.
get it simulated with the mullions on on the outside, I would think.
Because I think then that will
doesn't seem
create
to
the
be an
proper
issue.
shadow line. It will create the proper shadow lines and
Yes.
look closer than if it's just like a, sometimes you see these windows and they're just like a little metal strip. And I think that's an important detail to consider.
I agree.
Okay,
This might not totally be in our purview, but you're eliminating fire escape, which is the second means of egress, on the second floor, and replacing it with a new stair that is only a single means of egress. Is that, you've been to code people, are you okay with that?
Yes, it fits within the building code.
because of the size of the building, is that? how-
Yeah, it's a small footprint and that stair in that lobby is code compliant.
Okay. Other questions or comments on this? And so the windows along the front on the first floor are metal frame. Those will all be brand new. And they'll go, is there a divider between the top part and the lower part of those windows that goes behind that canopy there? Go down to first floor for a
First
second.
floor or second floor?
First floor, please.
They're showing the beam and they're showing beam across there.
Okay. But part of that is a canopy that sticks out in front of the building, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so that
Canopy-
beam, I see the beam is
Canopy only
exposed.
goes
from the
from
back.
where the hangers
Gotcha.
are.
Okay. Are there any other questions or on this or comments?
I like the side entrance. I think that's a good solution.
I like it was interesting when you mentioned the juxtaposition between the new east entry, second level, and then how it relates to the Barnes building. And I think that's very interesting. And I think it looks very well.
So you're going to go, the supports for the canopy then are going to come out of those, are those stucco panels in the front of the building there?
Stucco panels are going away.
No, up
No,
above. See where the cable
square-
comes down? That right there.
Anchors are
Where
there.
the cable comes down. Those are existing things, whatever they
And
are.
I imagine that they're drawn in such a way, will come out below that rosette, so that would still be a visible element. I don't know that, again, there's a couple details here that need to be
Should we,
worked out.
I guess what I'm kind of hearing from people, I'm not hearing that we have any problem with this, but I think we might want some details. Can you
Yeah,
come back to us?
We just want to know whether to go
Sure.
forward or not.
Absolutely. Okay, can we give these guys a sense of that? How's everybody feeling
It's
about
great,
this?
this is a great new building.
I think so
Glad to see
too.
it being renovated,
Yeah,
brought back.
and I personally like what you're doing too. I agree. Is everybody kind of on board with that?
We usually approve what you're actually gonna do, so if
Yeah.
you come back with the details.
So if you had second floor windows, if you had, and by the way, when you look at this drawing here, the one you got right here, you're showing kind of black, it implies black windows on the second floor. But you can't tell, so you're talking about black window
Storefront.
frame storefronts on the first floor as well.
Correct.
Okay,
And
I
unless
don't-
somebody hits the lottery and we go with spider fittings and
Yeah.
glass mullion, glass fins, but I don't think that's gonna happen.
yeah, okay. And I think if you can get the detail on maybe how the cables for the canopies operate there and where they come from. And then the canopy itself is just fabricated metal. It's not really a covered opening then, right? It looks like it's got a thinned opening kind of thing.
Yeah, the awning canopy on Long Street's just that sort of brie thing.
Yeah.
And the one on the alley side is on the right with the office blade sign and kind of glass,
Okay,
laminated glass
Details on all that.
eyebrow.
yeah, I think my interpretation is you're hearing a very positive reaction, okay? If you can come back with some of these details, I think we'll be all set.
Great, thank
And
you.
we'd be willing to hear it, next month if you already want to do it. Louis can set you up.
Yeah,
Does that
that-
work for you?
Yeah,
Okay, good. I think that's better because I think we've
Yeah.
got some things here that are, we need to have on. in
yeah,
moving
we got to get it through the first wicket first.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Okay,
Good.
thanks
so
for
much.
coming in.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Louis.
Sure.
Thanks, Louis.
Let's go.
No, that's right.
Okay, so the,
Don needs his touch.
He's still here.
Now he took off.
the next case is a conceptual application. It's at 106 and 147 Vine Street. Let me pull these locations up for you on the map. So here are the two buildings coming in for demolition. This is 106 Vine Street at the corner of School and Vine. And here is 147 Vine Street at the corner of Middle Alley and Vine Street. So the applicant is seeking conceptual review for the demolition of two commercial structures. 106 Vine Street is a single-story, 4,560 square foot masonry building constructed in 1966. 147 Vine Street is a single-story, 3,420 square foot masonry building constructed in 1964. Both buildings have large outdoor patio dining areas fronting on Vine Street. The applicant proposes replacing both structures with surface parking lots. A letter of support from Nationwide Realty Investors was included in the package. As referenced by the applicant in their current application, the property owners appeared before the commission at the January 2017 meeting, where they were granted approval to demolish three commercial structures: 501 Armstrong Street, 135 Spruce Street, 165 West Vine Street. At the meeting, the applicant stated they were expected to build on the site in 3 to 5 years. Now, 165 West Vine Street would be a paved lot. All properties are currently gravel lots. Guidelines state that while demolition sometimes makes way for projects of greater significance, it has often led to empty lots used for surface parking. Long-term effect has been the loss of continuity in the architectural fabric of many downtown streets. It is the general intent of these guidelines to encourage the preservation of downtown's building stock. Guidelines further state that a COA should be issued for a proposed replacement use building prior to issuance of the demolition permit, and that non-accessory parking lots are not an appropriate replacement use for buildings. In summary, the proposal does not meet the guidelines with regards to demolitions, as no replacement building has been approved, and the proposed parking lots are not an appropriate replacement use for raised buildings. They take site visit pictures of these locations. So this is building to the east. This is 106 Vine Street. You can see it's currently was a bar. This is the front, south view of the building. Here's the rear. There's currently a large surface parking lot behind the outdoor dining patio area to the west of the building. This is the east side of the building. You can see that parking. Here's the outdoor dining area at the front's on the street. Here you can see that dining area from the street, from Vine Street on the south. And here you can see what supports the parking, the west, larger wall. To the east of this site, specifically is the Brothers Building. And to the south is this building here, this office structure. And here we have a surface parking lot to the southeast. And to the west, we see a large surface parking lot. Here's the building to the rear of the building. This is to the north. This is the Arena Wine and Spirits. This is the other building. This is 147. This is the location of Dolly nightclub. This is the north front side. Here you can see a view looking southwest. You can see the dining area. And behind this building is a large electrical facility. See the dining area? This is the west side of the building. Here's the rear. You can see it's a fairly narrow parcel. large. To the west is a surface parking lot. This is the location of the previously approved demolition of one of the buildings. This is the parking lots to the north owned by the property owner. These are where the other demolitions took place. See the existing parking lot. So with that, that concludes my presentation. The applicant is.
Thanks. Would you identify yourselves for the record, please?
Absolutely. My name is Aaron Underhill. I'm an attorney with Underhill and Hodge, and I'm here with Adam Lewin, who is one of the owners of the property in an entity called HP Land Development Limited.
Thanks. Would you raise your right hands? You swear to affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So say I do.
I do.
Thank you.
How do you spell your last?
Lewin.
Thank you. Sure.
Very good.
Thank you for the opportunity to present this this morning. We know the elephant in the room is that you typically don't allow this to happen, and before you think we're insane, I'd like to mention that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. We were actually here about 5 years ago, 4.5, and we got the result we wanted. So we're not insane. We're hoping for the same result. Anyway, we are, Adam's family has had ownership of this property for generations. And if I could say anything about them, they're great stewards of not only the property, but the community, and have a lot of civic pride. Several years ago, we came in and asked for the demolitions of the other 3 buildings. We were at a time where we were pre-COVID. There was a lot of demand on parking. And we had 2 pretty significant projects coming forth, the hotel and the North Market Tower. Well, we all know what's happened since then. Even the North Market Tower is now kind of being revived, and that project, we hope is going to be really getting started in earnest soon. And so Adam finds himself in a unique position where he's got 2 buildings here with bars, restaurants that frankly, not to disparage the tenants because we don't believe it's their fault necessarily, but the area has seen a lot of crime, and frankly, Adam could probably speak to some things he's observed down there, and just a general vibe that we don't think is contributory to the area. And, maybe that's not necessarily something that legally can be considered, but we think anecdotally and practically it's of importance. And the reason why is, think about a building, and when, I should say that Adam has gone and negotiated with each of the tenants to have their leases expire at the end of March of this year. And so they'll be vacating the properties, and that's really a call on his part to sort of stop the dangerous conditions that we believe have evolved over the past several years. We, when you look at releasing space, you start looking at things like lease terms, tenant improvements, what's that going to cost, et cetera. And one of the things that has happened since 2017 is Adam's company and his family have entered into a long-term arrangement with Nationwide Realty investors, where essentially most everything under their ownership in the area here is subject to a partnership with them. And so what we would like to do is, rather than have these buildings sit there vacant, turn them into a more productive use in the short term. I think none of us could have predicted what happened, not only with COVID, but with the projects that were sort of the basis for the last demolitions. One of them hasn't even really gotten started yet, and it's been that long. So we start looking at, even if we wanted to lease these buildings out for a year, neither Adam as the landlord or any tenant is going to want to make a significant tenant improvement for a lease of that short of a term. And so that creates problems. And on the other hand, a 5 or 10 year lease doesn't do anybody good if we really want to see something happen here with NRI. And so, I think that context is important in terms of why we're making this ask and why we believe it's a little different. We've been approached and are talking through our parking management company with Continental about in their hotel about providing parking for that use. And we have also been approached on several occasions about providing staging areas for the construction of the North Market, and, you know, that being a multi-year project to build, trying to take care of some of the staging and parking and construction concerns that will result in place other pressures on the area. I did want, if I could, Louis, to bring up my slides. I know there's one we're not going to show here at the end, but wanted to just kind of give you context. There's where the two properties are. This actually is the latest Google image that I could find. It doesn't actually show the Chipotle building, but that's on the next slide. But up there in the northwest corner of the site, that was the condition prior to our last demolition ask, and there was nothing to demo here. But if you go to the next one, here in a 5-year period, we've gotten to the point where we've got this beautiful building here with parking garage and plans for NRI in partnership with Adam to provide some multifamily here on the right next to this as well. Go to the next slide, please. This is the condition, and then this is what this looked like in this area prior to the demolitions that were approved in 2017. And then, Louis, you go to the next one. That's what it looks like now. The area's changed a lot. But my point in showing you these is that there's been a lot going on in this area, and Adam continues to work with Brian Ellis and his team to identify opportunities. We really want to position this property to be something special and an extension of the Arena District, if you will. You know, the last time around when we did this, the staff report stated, and we did get your support, but it said clearly no superior replacement use has been proposed on the sites. However, in the immediate vicinity, there are 2 projects that will soon be in need of ancillary parking: the new Park Street Hotel and the expansion of the North Market. Here again, same thing is sort of the case here this many years later, and we would like to ask for your support in allowing a similar thing to happen here as happened several years ago, and really position this property for its highest and best use in a redevelopment. With that being said, I'd like Adam to maybe speak a little bit to what he's observed on the property and maybe add a little more color.
Sure. Thank you. Good morning. You know, from a generational standpoint, what I'll just say is that, you know, I work on this property with my sisters after our father and our grandfather had accumulated these properties over the years. And the one thing that I don't mind openly saying to this group is, you know, we believe very much that the development of the property needs to happen under our watch and not leave it for our kids to do that down the road. So that, in one respect, kind of gives you context of the timing of what we want to try and do. We're not going to wait 20 or 30 years, which we know there has been some history with that. We want to get it done. We want to get developed. We want to make it, you know, turnkey for the next generation. So with that in mind, essentially what we did when we entered into the agreement with NRI is we went to all of our existing tenants and informed them of the development plans going from Neal Avenue up to Front Street across from the North Market where the Brothers Bar is. So we've essentially told all those tenants, you know, we're not planning on releasing this property. It's going to eventually, when the lease is up, we're going to look to develop the property, you know, with NRI. The BBR and the Dahlia location was subject to a year-to-year lease by that point. So we gave them year-to-year opportunities to release, but it was always subject to conversation. And I would say over the last 18 months, I mean, again, as Aaron pointed, there's just been a lot of violence and a lot of things just contributing to the area that we felt were not beneficial. So my wife and I had a romantic night, and we went downtown around 1 a.m. Over the summer. And I looked over and saw everything from tear gas being sprayed by police to people being frisked or going through a metal detector on the way into the bars. And then I look over and I see the Chipotle building, and I see the parking garage investment, and then also knowing that there's going to be apartments down the road. So we made a collective decision as a family, rather than saying, you know, you need to change your way or approach your business. We just said we're just going to end the lease and go dark, you know, on the buildings. And that was really because we felt that was the only way we could collectively get to a point of starting to just reduce the crime and the problems that we saw created. In addition to that, I would say that we had collaborative conversations with David Cass and Frank Cass about their hotel because of their concerns for their, people staying there, things along that line. So those are not the only two bars, but those are the two bars that we could control and made the decision, to essentially just say you're going to shut down the end of March.
Okay. Questions, comments?
Talk about parking for the hotel, but the hotel was built. It has a big parking lot. Is it not sufficient for?
What we're understanding is it's not sufficient. David has approached us candidly for about 80 spaces to be used for valet, based on whatever his needs are, for the hotel. So, even if there was no, I would just say pandemic going on where people were not using the spaces, like we would still have to figure out, okay, where are we going to put those 80 spaces? How was that going to work?
And I might mention that, that's meant to be an interim condition too. Under our agreement with NRI, we can't tie up property and for other uses for long term. So we have a pretty short fuse, I think a 60-day, we can give 60 days notice and terminate that lease if it has not been signed, but so we're getting close. So the intent's not to tie that up as a parking lot forever. It's to leave open the opportunities for redevelopment, but in the meantime, have a somewhat productive use.
Let's just kind of step back for a couple minutes here and think about what when you talked about the one, I don't remember 2016, frankly. I think I was probably here, but
You were.
and
Here forever.
and but somehow or another, now it's got gravel, but it was going to be paved. Tell us just a little bit about that. And here's part of the problem. Did I misunderstand what was said?
Well, just for clarification, what was said at the meeting, this lot would be paved.
That lot would be
This,
paved.
and this would be gravel.
And why were we going to do that? I can't, do you remember? Well, you weren't
I
here.
have the minutes,
You guys can tell us, do you remember, Bob Leversich? You were here too.
Bob asked what it would be, and they said paved.
Say again?
Bob asked what the condition of the parking lots would be at the meeting, and the applicant stated this one would be paved and this one would be.
We've approved gravel lots in the past.
But for a very, very
Yeah,
temporary.
it's very temporary timeframe. And they don't meet any of our criteria for design or permanence or anything. Those lots have been there a long time.
Here's where what I think might be a solution to this thing. What I think it allows, and I maybe am wrong with this, does the code allow accessory parking?
It depends on what area of the city, but this area of the city, it would allow
So
non-accessory and accessory here.
non-accessory and accessory.
It's outside.
Oh, it does.
This is in zone B. Zone B.
So it's an allowable use, is that correct?
Yeah, it's
Parking.
allowed. Yeah, they don't need a variance for this. Allowable use, the
They
question.
need a variance, they need
Part of the-
permission to do permanent, temporary lot.
Yes. That's what.
So, I mean, it seems to me that if you had a use for this thing, for example, you're going to use it as part of this hotel development. Maybe you had an agreement so that, and then it's an accessory, it's literally going to be used for something. From my standpoint, I think I think long-term, I think it's going to be, I mean, we've done a lot of stuff over the years with Nationwide, and they do keep plugging along on this stuff. Where we've gotten into trouble, and we can sit here and talk, we can tell you some of these things. Somebody comes in and they're going to develop it. It's just like your opening, your preamble here was a discussion about how we're intending to do something. And by the way, no even thought of misrepresentation or anything else. I mean, it just, I'm in the business too. It just happens. You're going to do something and conditions change, and so it gets pushed down the road. Everybody gets that. But the problem is sometimes buildings go away and then we end up with, big sheets of vacant ground. Now, if the sheets of vacant ground are there because they're going to be kind of developed here forthwith, that's one thing. And then if you get another situation And we can tell you certain things where we've approved things and all of a sudden, the next thing, what, hell no, it's not going to get done. And I can name two of them right out of them, just like this. And so what we're trying to do is encourage a kind of a built fabric. Obviously, over time, things have changed. I mean, once upon a time, we had a hell of a lot of open spaces for parking, and people were just tearing buildings down just because they were intending to put parking lots there. And we were trying to discourage that. And I think we were going in the right direction when we did that. That has changed a little bit, although frankly, we've got this moment, this COVID moment here. So these parking lots are not as full as they might have been a couple of years ago, as you might have noticed. I mean, we've noticed that. And so all of a sudden you end up with this large strips of open space. But let's suppose that you had a deal for the hotel and they need it for parking. Now, of course, very frankly, they got other places there. And all you do is set up a deal with those guys and say, look, you can use it until we need it. We have a 60-day cancellation situation. My guess is you could work something like that out.
Yeah, and I think we're very close on that with them. We've exchanged a lease back and forth and,
With him, with the
with the
hotel?
hotel, yes. And,
Okay.
it's not finalized yet, but it's in process.
Okay. Now, I'm talking out loud. I don't know what other, the
I've probably been the biggest proponent of an empty building is better for the downtown than an empty site. Having said that, so certainly there's nothing about either of those buildings that would make us want to preserve them or, make sure that they're here in the future. So this isn't about that.
even in the area.
But this area is a little different than if it was a building over here in a dense part of downtown where that becomes a missing tooth in a streetscape. This is an area that's already big and all the teeth have been removed, right? I mean, it's pretty much a vacant site with some crappy buildings on it. And I'm loath to make an exception because we've been burned so many times. Saying, gee, we're going to come back and build on this site. We need to clear the site for development. I don't know any developers that can't see past a building and imagine their project on that site. So I've never bought that argument either. But it just seems to me in this area that those buildings are not contributing much. Not sure where to go with that, but I just wanted to say that this seems a little bit different, for instance, than the one that last.
Because also the zone that it's in to begin with, and then how it contributes. The way I feel about it is that if I knew a little bit more with if it was a little more solid about the deal with the hotel, and then it was a little bit more developed what the plan was with Nationwide and what that timeline was, that would give me more of a comfort level. But I definitely do see this being different than a building that is, let's say, downtown on a prominent street, which is, filling in that urban fabric. So
Let's suppose you go and you tear it. We say, okay, you tear it down.